Welcome to a series of podcasts discussing series of films.
I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
In a world inundated with prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and reboots, we ask the question,
Do we need one more? I think we do.
I think we don't.
The Chimera virus.
Oh no. Oh no. He gave me such a look like he knew he had something right on the precipice. You were ready
I
to
want to
say.
start this week's episode, and I was like, one phrase that kept coming back was like, the Chimera.
I will
The
say
Chimera.
it's a good name.
It's a good name. It is a good name.
Like we're gonna get into the our thoughts on this movie and what it succeeds at and what it does not succeed at very well at all.
Yes.
Chimera virus is pretty sick, and when we see like biblical, or not biblical, but mythological
art. Yeah, it feels very biblical.
I was like,
very...
I'm into this.
Yeah.
My first note, I was saying off air, I was gonna wait to tell you. It's not a big note. It's just a funny sentence. My first note in this movie is Tom Cruise does a karate chop, and I just think that's.
Wait, where does he do the
It's in the beginning
chop?
when he's like he karate chops the doctor in the throat.
Yeah. He does. It's right in the first thing.
It's evil Tom Cruise. It's Dougray Scott in the mask,
the man who would be Wolverine.
Yes. We should maybe get that out of the way. I just want to say, interesting that this movie and that the Mission Impossible franchise has such an impact on two specific superhero movies. That Ian McKellen passes on the Anthony Hopkins role, and because of that is able to do X-Men and Lord of the Rings. So because this movie gets delayed,
that was a good move.
And because this movie gets delayed, Dougray Scott, who plays the villain in this movie, has to drop out of X-Men.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman swaps in.
Jump in like 6 weeks before they start filming or something.
So like two X-Men casting, almost from this movie. And then when we get to Mission Impossible Fallout, obviously the production of that movie and Justice League are in conversation with each other.
This seems to be a recurring theme with Tom Cruise derailing things.
It seems like,
not derailing, but like, dude, but that like Ian McKellen passing on this, that's like a Matrix bullet dodge. Like
very crazy, right? Especially because Anthony Hopkins is barely in this movie.
Yeah,
he's in two
that'd be
scenes.
Nuts for that to do. Yeah, because I read one of the things I read was that he was originally supposed to do 2 days of filming and it turned into 5. So it's crazy that those 5 days of filming were that important, or specifically conflicted with, I guess, whatever would have made it impossible for them to do the other thing.
It's the amount. I think it got delayed.
That's crazy that five days of filming.
Well, I think it's that the production was delayed like 5 months, and so because of that, he was still contractually under the production of that movie.
Wait, which one?
Of Mission Impossible 2. So the
Anthony
idea
Hopkins?
is, Anthony Hopkins, and then that's what got Dougray Scott out of Wolverine.
Yeah,
was that the movie went long and he couldn't go do X-Men.
Yeah, well, because this movie was supposed to come out like in '98 was the original plan when they started developing it, but while they were working on it, Tom Cruise was doing Eyes Wide Shut with Mr. Stanley Kubrick.
Got you.
And that was supposed to be like, oh, we're gonna film for this, and then they were gone for 2 years filming in England, and so they couldn't do anything but that.
Working with Stanley Kubrick is a pretty good excuse for having to push a movie sequel.
Yes,
I'll give him that.
Yeah, and it ultimately gives us Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Ian McKellen as Magneto. So
incredible.
And it's not like this slowed down Anthony Hopkins' career. He's still got good crap under his belt.
No, but it is funny that he's in 2 scenes and narrates the mission thing, and that's
he does.
That's all he does.
That's wild.
I was like waiting because I knew McKellen passed on this, and that's what allowed him to do X-Men. So I was like waiting for Ian McKellen or Anthony Hopkins to like pop up a bunch of times, and I was like, no, he's like barely in this. They also don't really say who he is. Like he's the leader of the IMF.
Yeah, he's the leader of the IMF in this one.
But
assuming because Kittredge doesn't run IMF, he's just the point man trying to hunt in the previous one, right?
No.
For those who are listening to us, welcome to the show. We're doing Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, we're working our way through.
We're working our way through the missions. There's so many at this point. I think the mission's possible.
You'd think they would be like, we succeed pretty frequently, so maybe we should change a possible missions force to,
probable.
As long as
Possibly.
Ethan is there. Yeah. Strong possibility this mission will be... Maybe it just doesn't roll off the tongue easier, I suppose.
I suppose. Mission Impossible is a lot catchier.
Yeah. It is funny in 3 when they finally say out loud that it's the Impossible Missions Force.
Yeah, that's what it is in the show, but then when they did the first movie, I think they didn't like
don't
the way
say
it sounded,
it,
so they just avoided saying it, and they just kept saying IMF.
Yeah. Because that's a pretty cool acronym.
Which also works pretty
rad.
good. It sounds really official.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie...
Yeah, so tell me, what's your relationship to Mission Impossible 2?
So up until yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever I watched this movie, I had basically no relationship with this movie other than knowing that it's the bad one. I didn't see this movie because, as we talked about in the last episode, the sequence of all of Ethan's team members being killed scared the hell out of me as a child. Yes. So I didn't see Mission Impossible 2. And then Mission Impossible 3, I kind of remember, but I didn't really interact with it that much. It wasn't until Ghost Protocol that I caught, the bug for Ethan Hunt.
You caught the need for speed.
It's so true, man. I am with Ethan Hunt. That is my boy.
He doesn't say that in Mission Impossible. I know.
Don't worry about it. So I've never seen this movie up until we decided to watch it for the podcast, and I was gonna watch it. I said in the last week's episode that my sister and I were watching these movies together, and I actually intentionally skipped this one because I knew that if we went from that first movie into what was the bad one, that she might not want to watch the other ones. So I was like, let's do 1 and 3. I'll let you...
That was... So, like, the love of my life, Abby, we were talking about this, and I was like, do you finally want to, like, watch Mission Impossible? And she was like, yes. And I was like, yeah, we're watching the first 2. And I've always told her I want her to see 3 first.
Sure.
And she's like, well, I like in this go around, I asked her, and she was like, yeah, I really want to see the first 2. And I was like, if you see the second one, I think you'll not want to watch anymore.
It might turn your interest off for a very understandable reason. This movie is not, I don't think it's terrible.
No.
It's very clearly the weakest of this
it's the
series.
Least Mission Impossible of the bunch.
Well, my biggest thing is with this movie is like, it doesn't obviously. So John Woo directs this one, right? And,
yes, legendary,
iconic
game
action
changer.
filmmaker,
John Woo. We got Face Off. We got Hard Boiled? I forget. Is Hard Boiled the big one? I haven't seen that one yet, but
one of the big ones.
He's got Face Off. Jet Li's the one.
He basically no one does like balletic gun action sequences better than John Woo.
No,
and when he directs this movie, and obviously I wasn't really cognizant around the time this movie was coming out, but watching it for this, going in, I'm like, I am expecting like rock and roll action. Like I'm expecting to like, especially I watched the trailer for this movie before I watched it.
I haven't seen the trailer in a minute, but it's a good trailer.
It's a great trailer. I was like, dude, this movie is like fucking like guitar soloing for its entire runtime.
In the previous movie, Danny Elfman did the score. For this one, they got Hans Zimmer.
Is it Zimmer?
It's Zimmer.
I didn't even realize.
But he hasn't. It's no one knows who Zimmer is yet. So this is year 2000. So he hasn't done he's doing Gladiator simultaneously, and there's some elements of the score that sound like the Gladiator soundtrack a little bit, which I think is funny. But yeah, it's like once he does Gladiator, he becomes like a household composer.
Yeah.
But name. But it's this is the Zimmer score, which I'm like. That like this version of the like Mission Impossible theme is like so sick.
It is. It's really
it rips, dude.
Well, so it is done by Limp Bizkit, which is an unbelievable sentence.
Yeah.
The song has lyrics.
It's just one of those days.
Don't look up the lyrics. They're horrible. They're really bad and weird. The lyrics.
Did they give it lyrics?
It's not in the movie for a very specific reason. It's pretty bad.
Limp Bizkit, Woodstock 96, 98.
It's great. I caught a couple of the lyrics and I was like, yeah, I also would not include the lyrics into this movie.
Yeah.
Because the opening, I will say, this movie starts, I'm kind of into it when it kicks off.
It's pretty cool the way this movie starts.
Like, us doing the mask right off the bat, I think that one of the big problems with this movie is that there's just too much mask.
There's a lot of Scooby-Doo antics in this one.
And I think there's a specific moment that would feel really impactful had we not just been pulling masks on and off the entire time. But the opening of this movie, again, Tom Cruise does a karate chop. That's an insane sentence. Like that's exactly what popped into my head was Austin Powers was Mike Myers doing the judo chop.
Also, it's fun seeing like evil Tom Cruise, like where he's like, you really shouldn't be calling me Dimitri.
Well, it's like we've talked about this off air, like Collateral. Like it's like what makes Tom Cruise so effective as a villain is his intensity turned towards like a more, like his intensity in a more evil lane or whatever is like horrifying to watch him inflict.
It's scary because you're like, that's the guy who does the impossible thing for breakfast.
It's like what he like loves to do.
That's like his thing, is to do a thing.
But then we go into like that sequence, which I think is kind of fun. When I was watching it, my audio got like unsynced. So like the Ring Around the Rosie thing was playing like while the doctor was like on the plane.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? This movie is far more abstract than I intended. I thought it was, and I had to restart my TV.
It's like a masterclass in melodrama.
And
I think it's well, I'll say I think it's a masterclass in melodrama for like 85% of it. I think there's a couple points where it's like the dial's too far the other way, and it's like it's like this is just ridiculous now.
We've discussed this before off air as well. Like I'm all for silliness.
Yes.
I'm all for things being like over the top and kind of verbose or whatever. I do think this movie kind of like ends up laughing in its own face at times.
Yeah, but like accidentally, this movie's so self-serious in a way that like it feels like when The Rock is like the hierarchy of power is going to change. Like like Tom Cruise's whole like demeanor, his hair, this movie's got a bigger budget. Like it's just like this one feels just like really like hubris is a word that comes to mind.
Well, also it's like the movie is like objectively absurd. Like the movie starts. I'm gonna read this from my notes, which I'm trying to do less, but I just can't help but I need to read this verbatim. This is the opening, right? So, well, my second note, so it's Tom Cruise doing a karate chop, and then my second note is this movie's going to be, and then in bold I wrote extreme, isn't it?
Yes. Extreme in an X Games rock climbing kind of way.
And this is the bit that I feel the need to read verbatim, just because of how absurd it is when you say it out loud. A man in a helicopter dressed in a suit fires a rocket to Tom Cruise, who has just free climbed a mountaintop.
Yes.
The rocket contains a pair of sunglasses with Anthony Hopkins as the voice of God telling him the mission he will about to go into.
Yeah.
Tom then tosses out a catchphrase, like, this is why I go on vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
He tosses.
Like, you didn't tell us where you were, and he's like, "It wouldn't be a vacation if I told you where I was going."
He throws that out there, then throws the glasses towards the camera. The sunglasses explode, and we have a Limp Bizkit hard rock cover of the Mission Impossible theme.
10 out of 10.
My note then says ... cinema.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of this movie that rules, and there's a lot that doesn't. But that's one of the parts that I think is awesome. I think what's hilarious is the way the rocket hits the dirt and it like zooms to it, because it looks like a. If you showed me that without anything else from the movie, I would have guessed it was from Spy Kids.
Yeah, 100%. Well, because it's pretty. Like
that feels like it's like the flashback from like Junie and like their parents when they met. Like it feels like it's from that. Like it feels more Robert Rodriguez almost.
You said that. Can we talk about Spy Kids one time? I want to talk about Spy Kids. That whole Spy Kids.
We'll get it on the docket for season 2.
Dude, Tom Cruise should be in Spy Kids.
They should find a way to get him in.
How
there.
Crazy
they got George
would
Clooney.
That be? Yeah.
Why can't they get it?
Tom Cruise being like Junie.
He's like, I'm the president now.
That would be nuts.
Or no, hear me out. No, I don't know. No, I'll close. I'm not going to do that joke.
We'll get into it.
I'll tell this joke off air, but I can't. I don't want to do it here. I don't want this to be, I don't want that to undercurrent the show.
I think this movie, I feel like I can't tell what it's doing sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's just sort of, I feel like it's that thing of like,
I can't tell if I'm laughing with it or at it.
It's a little bit, I think there's a lot kind of going on, I think, behind the scenes of like what each person is trying to make the movie.
Sure.
And like, I think Tom Cruise hasn't quite figured out what Mission Impossible is yet.
Sure.
And then I feel like the writers don't know what Mission Impossible is. I feel like they know James Bond. Yeah. Because this movie's got a lot of like GoldenEye kind of vibes to it.
So
to the point where I actually thought maybe that this script was supposed to be like a Brosnan Bond adventure and then turned into a Mission Impossible late in the game, but I have found no evidence for that to be true. Only that this was developed like for Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Well, I texted this to you when I was watching this.
Yeah.
That like you can make the argument at this point in time, right, that each director, because they are so much taking a hold of the franchise for each entry, right, up until we get to kind of the Macquarie era, that Ethan is kind of a malleable character, right? That he can kind of fit the story, the style, right? Because this movie is going to be broader, that Ethan will be also broader by, that same measure.
Yeah.
The movie half does it. It kind of stops doing it near the end. And I think also it is a testament to the fact that should not be the way to interpret Ethan Hunt.
No.
Because
but this does feel like he is having a midlife crisis.
Yes. Well, okay, yeah. So we talk about the long hair.
Let's talk about the long hair.
What are you staying with it?
I can't tell if I love it or hate it.
I love it.
I'm jealous of it, that's for sure. I wish my hair did that.
Yeah, it's a good head
shit.
of hair.
That is a good head of hair. I think the thing about this movie, I think this is where like, I feel like this is like such a meta behind the scenes kind of commentary from like what I was reading. It's from what I've gathered from the production, because it's obviously got delayed and they were trying to figure it all out, and then the budget ballooned I think a little bit on this one.
Sure.
And the schedule went way over too, but that was mostly due to rain, not really because of the thing. But it sounds like from what I gathered that the longer this movie is like in production and moving through, the more John Woo and Tom Cruise stopped seeing eye to eye on what the movie's supposed to be.
Got you.
And like John Woo is just trying to do a John Woo movie, and Tom Cruise is still trying to figure out what Mission Impossible is. But at the same time, I feel like he's also trying to establish, I'm Tom Cruise, I'm the coolest man in the room. I always would, like, he's got that, like, I feel like his ego is kind of like disservicing the movie, I think, to a degree. And that's like where the weird parts of the movie are.
Yeah.
Is like how much it's like a Rock situation of like when he's like, I'm the coolest person, I can't lose. I have a no lose clause. Like that's what this movie feels a little bit like for Tom Cruise. And I feel like he learns a valuable lesson from it going forward, because he, like in this movie, he is like unshakable.
Well, it feels wrong.
Whereas like in the first movie, he's like, he panics, he freaks out. He has like they're dead, like kind of energy. And in this movie, he is like cool, calm. And even when he's like mad, he's like angry and in charge. And like, I'm the coolest man. I'm the hero. Like it's like, I feel like Tom Cruise wanting this like as a star vehicle to like define him. I think the way he's trying to define himself also is like in conflict with what makes Ethan work.
Totally. Because I think when we go right from that rock climbing sequence into this kind of intro with him and Tandy Newton, which we will get to.
Yes.
But it feels wrong for Ethan to be in like being Bond. Like it feels like he's playing
this
Bond.
Feels like James Bond stuff.
And it feels very wrong.
Mission Impossible.
And Tom Cruise can play like the cocky guy. I mean, he's literally Maverick. Like it's
he's literally the cockiest guy, but the kind of cocky he has in this like is so annoying.
It's weird to see. I think in my notes I was like, it's weird to see Ethan Hunt in like sexual situations.
Yeah, it's like that weird thing of like he's the same level of cocky he's always been, but like with none of the charm.
Well, like I like this idea that Ethan Hunt posts this. I like the idea that Ethan Hunt posts this incident with, his original team, that they all died, at the hands of the evil John Voight.
He's traumatized and he's got can't lose cards.
Yeah, exactly.
They want me back.
But that
I did a rogue mission and I saved the world. I'm the coolest guy ever.
I'm gonna cough real quick and then.
How dare you?
Thank you. I'm sorry. So I'm getting
That's
the
fine,
boot. I gotta go. The big crane comes around.
I'm like, wait a second. I pull the mask off to reveal General Grievous.
Oh my god, that's awesome. I put in your microphone. Another fine addition of my phone.
No, I didn't think not Empire. Revenge of the Sith. I didn't think that's where we were heading today.
No, hey, well, that's the beauty of the podcast,
we're
right?
Here.
We talked about Taco Bell in the last episode.
Yeah.
And here we are talking about it again. But so Ethan Hunt, like my thing is like
0 out of 10, no diarrhea in this movie.
Honestly, true. I agree. But I feel like Ethan Hunt as a character, like post that incident where his whole team dies, that he is like irreversibly changed after that. And so it feels weird, not to say that he can't have moments of levity or he can't enjoy it. Like, you know, in 3, it's the whole thing of like, I just want to try to move past this. I want to try to live
he's
a
trying to
normal
move
life.
on.
But it's weird to see him as an agent in the IMF being like, I'm having fun, or we all having fun. And it's like, no, like what do you mean? Like you spent all of the last movie like sweating profusely over the fact that like, you know, you needed to prove yourself innocent and all this other stuff. So for him to be like, you know, like doing like making moves on Tandy Newton, it just kind of feels wrong for the character. Yeah,
it feels very wrong. And it's funny. So my experience with this movie is that the first time I saw this when it came out, on pay-per-view.
Nice.
My parents rented it for, I'm sure, $1.99.
Sure.
And I was in the room, they were watching it. When it got to them in the bathtub, they told me to leave the room. So I didn't see how the movie ended, but the Chimera stuff was freaking me out a little bit. Years later, I saw it, like the back end, like the motorcycle chase onward, and was like, what is this? And they were like, Mission Impossible 2. And I was like, this fucking rules.
Sure.
And what's also fun is it was that day we were on vacation. It was a double bill like on like TNT or something with the Thomas Crown Affair.
The Brosnan one?
The Brosnan one.
Oh, boy.
So like I was getting like spy shit like up the wazoo. It was awesome. Like this defined me. I think this is the moment I was like, I like heist movies.
Fair.
This is the thing.
I mean,
and then they were like, just wait till you see Ocean's 11. And I was like, oh?
Yeah. Then they put on the 60s one and you were like...
Yeah. I was like, let me do a song, and then Sticks of Dynamite. Hey, it's a dame.
That really was those movies.
I think that sums up any Sinatra movie from that era.
They have like a pocket watch in their hand, and they're going like, hey, maybe we do iced or something.
Hey, maybe I'm a Manchurian candidate.
Yeah. What are we, some kind of Robin Hood in the Seven Hoods?
Maybe I'm some kind of Anchors Away.
Hey. Maybe I get really upset.
Yeah, all right. Locking back in. But no, so I saw it from that point on, and then that was like when they were like, well, the third one just came out, let's watch it. And so the third one was the first one I watched in its entirety.
Nice.
And then we went back and watched either 2 or 1 next, and then like probably 1. I think we probably jumped back to 1 and watched upwards. But third, I was like locked in. I was like, this is cool. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that more next week. But at that point, though, having only seen like mostly 2, I was just like, that's my favorite one.
Sure, totally. No,
because I was just like, I think I was probably like 8 or 9, and I was just like Matrix vibes. This is the best.
Fair.
I want long hair and tiny shades.
I completely
combat boots.
I still want all those things.
A long jacket.
A duster.
A duster.
We're both fans of Sunny. The duster is
the
iconic.
Duster. I just watched the episode where they introduced the Duster like last night. Not even joking.
I have terrible news.
I bet
he hits the post.
And they're like, what is this? What's going on? And then I think like 2 episodes later, Dennis comes in with no shirt, and he's like,
no shirt.
I've lost my mojo. I'm just trying to get it back right now.
It's a vibe. But no, I think this movie
this movie's a vibe
when it's doing the John Woo action stuff, and you know you can make a case that maybe it's not as good, obviously, as his other, like a hard.
No, it's not, because it's like not as good as a Hard Boiled or a Face Off. And what's funny is I think that it's a lot of the same like language, or like,
sure, we've got
like
he's got the
same he's got the same toolkit from Face Off, so it's like, which I think was literally the movie prior.
Yeah.
Or is it after?
Yeah, because Face Off, isn't that
Face
96
Off was like 96 or 97 or something like that. But this one feels very Face Off-y.
Yeah.
For the most part in a good way, but I think ultimately it kind of works against it.
Well, I also think when all that stuff happens, it's like the last 35 minutes of the movie.
True. Yeah.
Like we get there, but we get there at the end, and it's that thing of when it happens, I'm like, where was this? Because I think, in terms of reinterpreting the movies, right? If this was like Ethan Hunt back against the wall, like, bombastic rock opera kind of thing, and I don't want to rewrite a movie from 25 years ago now, but it's like that if the movie was doing that, I think it would maybe make a better case for itself, but there's so much time of us just like discussing, you know what I mean?
It's a lot of like people in rooms talking,
yeah,
which I guess is the first one, but in the first one it's like
But
who are you? Put that down.
This was the thing.
This one's a little bit more like we're all kind of waiting around.
This is the thing that I was talking about in the first episode, that it's like, I am not upset about the, maybe for lack of a better term, like lack of action in the first one, because it is a thriller and I am viewing it in that lens. With this one, I'm here to watch, presumably, right? Especially given that trailer.
Yeah.
An action movie.
Yes.
And if it's a lot of people sitting in a room in the suburbs of Australia, like, you're kind of like, I don't, like, what am I watching? And then when it happens, you're like, well, I'm glad that it's here. But
well, it's like the last, like, 30 or maybe 40 minutes. I don't know how long the, like, last, like, action break is, but it feels, I mean, it's long, but it also feels like they're making up for both what hasn't been happening the whole movie and the previous movie.
Sure, yeah.
Which, like, I think they are in record, like, a big, like, point of, like, why they wanted John Woo ultimately to take over was they wanted to do more action to, like, make up. So I think that was a complaint of the first one.
And it's not a terrible instinct, because I think the action sequences are kind of what define this franchise going forward.
No, yeah, it is.
I mean, 4 really forward, but, like, you know.
I think 4 is the one where, like, it becomes, like, it becomes part of the marketing.
Sure.
But it's like, this one has, like, crews doing helmetless motorcycle chases. We've got knives being held mere millimeters from an eye. We've got all kinds of stuff.
Well, it's
more
like,
wire work.
It's the car sequence is a big thing for me too. Like when it's him and Tandy Newton and they're driving.
That's a good car chase.
It's pretty good.
I don't like the conversation they're having in it.
I don't like many of the conversations that they force Tandy Newton to in this movie and speak about her.
I saw a note in the trivia on IMDb that was just like, Tandy Newton was asked to reprise her role in 3, but she declined, and I was like, wonder why.
Yeah, wonder why.
I'm
like, yeah, I would probably feel the same way.
Yeah,
she was in an article.
She's great.
She's great.
And she's in Westworld, I believe, right? I haven't seen it, but I've heard she's one of the standouts in that. And it's just like, yeah, she's just standing around. It's the same problem as the first movie of like, now you stand there and look pretty.
I had several moments where I had the thought of, it's unbelievable how much they are wasting Tandy Newton in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially because in the first one, Emmanuelle Bear does that thing where she's like by Tom Cruise's side, but she's just kind of just standing there until he figures it out. Tandy Newton, they have a line, and I think I texted you about this, where they literally are like, you are like a world-renowned thief, and you have all these skills. We are going to ignore all of those to just objectify you.
Yeah.
And they do that
anyway,
for the
we want you to date
movie.
your abusive ex-boyfriend again. Can you do that for us, sweetie? And it's like, what the
It's so condescending.
Anthony Hopkins has maybe the most vile line I think I've heard. I thought Jon Voight had it like locked in that first one with the I've tasted the goods.
Jesus Christ.
I apologize for anyone who's listening. If you get chills, I blame the writers.
Yeah,
I'm just a messenger. What's the line in this one? I think what is it? Tom Cruise is like, she doesn't have the training for this, and he's like,
to go to bed with a man, she's a woman, is what he says.
To go to a bed and lie to him or something. Like, it's just like, whoa,
it's
what the
unbelievable.
How many times have you been married, sir? Like
I it's like they keep doing it too.
Yeah, it doesn't stop.
It happens several more times.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise just has to like stand there and be like angry about it, which I feel like they have him do that like to sort of justify like how awful those lines are.
And Tandy Newton, well, there is a specific moment when Tandy Newton finds out that this is what she has been brought on to do, that she's like, this is it. And Ethan Hunt literally has a line that he's like, I don't like it, but we're doing it anyway. And it's like the idea that like the movie is almost trying to like ask for forgiveness as they're doing it. And it's like, you don't.
What does he yell at her?
He literally says like, I don't like it, but this is
then
how
be
it is.
glad.
Yeah. It's something like that where it's like, you don't.
That's this movie's. They're all dead.
They're all dead, yeah. But it's like you don't get to like say, "Hey, by the way, we're completely objectifying."
They established like a perfect like Catwoman-esque like character who's got like all this agency and stuff, and then they're just like,
well, I mean, the idea of her
get
being
it back
this,
up on your pedestal,
this jewel thief, and it's like has Ethan. I mean, it's something that they kind of do with Ilsa Faust, is the idea of like, has Ethan met his match, like kind of a thing. Is this a person that can? And in the beginning, when they're doing their like kind of like sexual like comments to each other, that being gross, but the idea of these two of these people being that being pretty gross, and I don't enjoy it, but like that they're kind of like playing tennis with each other, right? That they're like, I'm skilled at this, But then the movie completely ignores all that, and then she just literally has to like stand around and be with her abusive ex.
Stands
like
around and be with her abusive. Yeah, she does have this one funny moment though when like it's like right when he's first trying to recruit her. It's before the first car chase with them. She like goes up to like the valet. There's no one next to her, and she's like. She was just like muchacho, like, and then like some dude from like 100 feet away is pulling up a Porsche. Like I
thought the same thing. I was like, wait, what?
Damn, that guy's got good ears.
Yeah. Props to that guy.
The greatest valet in the world
for clocking that.
I'll take a movie on that guy.
But
yeah, no, to me, it's just like this movie has this thing of like, it feels like the Tropic Thunder parodies, like at the beginning.
Oh my God, you're totally
like it just feels like a fake movie in parts. Like when they're not when it's not like John Woo at his best, it feels like when it's doing it wrong, it's a fake movie.
Yeah.
And like Ethan's just like a douche. Like I think I wrote down like 3 or 4 times he's just like a douchebag in this one.
He
versus
is
like
really mean.
He's not like cocky and confident. He's just a straight up like dick.
Yeah. So then we get in. Yeah. Basically the whole idea is that Sean Ambrose, that Dougray Scott has like stolen this thing.
School.
He's good in this.
He's good. He's a pretty schwarmy. Good. He's a good John Woo villain.
And he's evil Ethan Hunt. Like, that's what he's doing. Like that's what the bit is.
No, and Ethan, I think he'll calm down the vents.
That's not bad. You got there.
I think it was slowly turning into John Lennon near the end there, or more specifically, Paul Rudd doing John Lennon.
Great record.
Great record.
But
thank you, Dewey Cox.
Oh my God, that movie's so good. But
we're gonna cover Dewey Cox at some point. I think.
Walk Hard. Yeah, we should.
You never once paid for drugs. Not once. Shout out to Tim Meadows, maybe the most underrated comedian ever.
Tim Meadows is one of those guys that whenever he pops up in something, I instantly just burst into smiles.
Yeah, you're just like looking at him waiting.
He's so good. Yeah. But so the idea is that there's this super virus, the Chimera, and Ambrose has it, or right?
So the thing, it comes up later in the movie because Ethan figured this out. When they do the plane heist, Dougray Scott thinks that the virus is like in the briefcase or something.
Right.
So he takes what are essentially empty vials and blows up the plane. It's revealed later that the scientists couldn't get it through security that way. So he injected himself with the virus and was going to basically like inoculate himself when they landed.
Gotcha.
And so I think Dougray Scott only steals the cure.
Okay.
But doesn't realize that the virus, the other part to his master plan, was in the guy that he kills in the opening sequence of the movie, which leads them to have to go steal it again, National Treasure style. Which it's like that weird thing of like, when he goes to steal it, I guess he's aware that Ethan's going to go steal it at that point, but it's weird when they get to that point of like, we need to go steal it.
It's oddly feels more convoluted than the first one.
It's like this has a more straightforward plot technically because it's just
it's a thing. We got to get the thing.
Get the virus, get the cure, save the girl.
Yes.
That's the movie. Crash a couple cars.
Yes.
I will say right now, my uncle has introduced me to a rule of Hollywood, and I dare say that John Woo invented this rule.
Okay.
The rule goes, this isn't for every movie, it's not a hard rule, much like any of the rules of filmmaking. But when the front 2 wheels of a car leave the ground, car explodes. And I think John Woo like made that the rule.
Hey, I'm okay with that.
And I think in this movie, that seems to be part of the math. I think
there's a lot of things that go boom. Yeah, that blow up and go boom.
They're like boom, boom.
Oh no!
Get the Costco.
Sorry
kid
about
to
the
watch
Chimera virus. You get 5 big.
Oh, sorry about that. Your girl injected herself with Chimera to save your life and the world. 5 big booms, boy. Boo.
That's unbelievable. But so then we go. So I also think the movie is interesting in that it starts like it feels like we're gonna do like a globe-trotting thing.
Yeah, and then we're just locked into Australia.
In Australia, yeah. And nothing against Australia.
Which they're actually it was a good reason because of the Eyes Wide Shut stuff. Him and Nicole Kidman, as they were a couple at the time, were raising their kids, and it was like, let's make the next one closer to home.
Okay,
and so they lived in Australia, so that a big reason it was just to help like allow them to be like a family, I guess.
I mean, I appreciate that. I do think it's weird that the movie starts off it feels large in scope.
Yeah.
But like this like nice. I will say, the intro. Jumping back for 2 seconds. The
flamingo dancing.
I think that whole thing is really
awesome.
Rad. The playing
boy sees girl across the dancing. Kind of cool.
I think that
pretty sweet.
That works. It's what's happened.
That's the way to meet a girl. I think.
It's what, dude. Yeah,
dramatically
across the room at a flamenco dance. Like, yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's what happens immediately after that.
What everything after is very bizarre.
But it starts, and I feel like we're gonna do this whole thing, and then we land down in Australia. We meet the 2 other members of the team.
Yes.
How do we feel about the team in this one?
So obviously we get Ving Rhames back as Mr. Luther, and as I don't know if I said it, but my note in the first movie is Ving is king. And I wrote it again for this one.
Ving is king.
I think Ving is king.
Full support behind that.
Mr. Cobra Bubbles, Mr. Marsalis Wallace.
That's true.
I think he's always great. I love to see him. I think it's funny we get like a proto Benji in this.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, and it's like they're like
oh.
Australian hacker boy. No. English hacker, like Scottish.
Well, yeah, it
hacker
feels
boy.
like. It's weird because it's like
he has this I was like it feels like Simon Pegg, but it's not Simon Pegg. It's weird.
Well, also he kind of occupies the same role as Ving. Like he's like the computer guy.
Well, it's like he seems to be this like other hand.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just like how much smaller the team is in this one. This is the smallest team, I think. Because it's just 2 guys.
It's also the weakest team. Because Tandy
I think
Newton
it is
also
the weakest
technically
one.
a part of the team.
Yeah, but her job is just to exist.
To do nothing and just like date her.
Is to become Abusive X's trophy wife.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like it's
horrible mission.
So like there isn't really a team in this.
It isn't. It's mostly Ethan like mewing.
Yeah. It's
and then Ving being like my Versace shoes.
Yes, I will say, had me rolling laughing, and this is my letterboxed review.
I think he makes up for how weak the team is, like because he's so good.
True, but the point that made me bust out laughing. This is where I'm like, I can't tell if I'm laughing with the movie or at it.
Yeah.
Is when Tandy Newton shows up to Sean Ambrose's place.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, she's back in her life or whatever.
Very like Mos Eisley looking.
And true. And the scarf starts to flutter in the wind. When he grabs the scarf and the music like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's in slow-mo. I like keeled over in laughter.
That's what I'm talking about. What it feels like a fake movie.
Yeah.
Like it feels like if you did it, it'd be like John Hamm like or something, and like he would grab
Will Arnett.
It's Will Arnett.
Yeah.
It's I don't even know. It'd be Will Ferrell probably too. Like
that's my point of like I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing with or at this. Like because it's like that is hilarious.
It's objectively hilarious. And there's a couple other moments like that. Like there's a moment when they're doing the Chimera heist and he does the like stay alive, and then he blows up the wall, and then it's like no sound, just guitar riffs, hair, and then he out the hole.
And I'm all for like ambiance and tone,
and it's like literally action. Like from like the shots leading up, it's like that's kind of dope, and then like it'll like literally in the next setup be the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, this is a hard movie to talk about in that like after this stuff happens, it's like a lot of people just like talking about stuff. Like
there's a big dead zone in this movie.
Yeah. There's kind of an interesting part, I guess, where like it's, he has the little like disc drive and it's the whole left jacket thing where it's like, it's in my left jacket. We're really, talking about the left jacket, and he recognizes that Tandy Newton is against her. Because he realizes that it's switched pockets, but also it just then makes Tandy Newton seem like she's like bad at her job.
That's like the one thing she's supposed to be good at.
Yeah, and it's like she's literally a thief. Like that's her whole thing, and she's good at it. Like
like it's established in her like hot tub scene with.
Yeah, so we've completely
the only reason that the alarm went off is because Ethan literally has a button for it on him.
So like clearly she would have gotten away.
She wouldn't have gotten away with it if Ethan literally wasn't there. But it's like. Yeah, so wild. And then it's like even like in the car chase, it's like you'll have moments of like that is some jaw-dropping car driving. Yeah. And then they like hit and it's like slow-mo dramatic like eye locking, and it's just like whoa.
There's
whoa.
Again, it's that thing where I'm like
settle down.
Like pick a lane. Like I'm like if you're gonna do it, I want to see you do it. Like
it's like either commit more to it being super ridiculous or like
because the idea of
like
that
bring
car
it
chase,
back, like take it back a hair.
The idea of that car chase being like a dance and we're setting it, all that I think is really cool. Yeah. But we just don't really do it.
Yeah,
enough.
it's just that thing of like the melodrama thing gets like really inconsistent, and I think part of that is like I think John Woo knows like the balance at times, but I think Tom Cruise hasn't figured out the balance, and also because I think he's probably fighting his instincts from the first movie. I feel like the weird thing is like he ends up like turning in the wrong performance.
Yeah.
Like it's too serious in a way that's not self-aware enough. Like it just feels like, look at me, I'm the biggest movie star in the world.
Yeah, the intense beats.
It's like when The Rock
wrong.
shows up doing the eyebrow kind of thing. It's just like, look at me, you're impressed.
Yeah. So Brendan Gleeson's in this movie.
Mad Eye Moody.
Didn't know that.
Did not know.
When
and
I
I've seen this
watched it.
movie several times.
Do you think he also think he looks like Christopher Nolan in this?
Wow, I do now.
The second he showed up, I was like, why does he look like Christopher Nolan?
Like, is that Chris Nolan or
looks,
Mad Eye Moody? Damn,
right?
that is freaking hilarious.
And
he absolutely does look like Chris Nolan,
right? like the hair, the outfit. He just
don't tell Chris Nolan that. He's gonna show up with the middle part in the next. He's gonna be like Odysseus.
I'm
You're allowed a wand.
But yeah, it's like Gleeson is in this basically just to give exposition.
Yeah,
just
he's
for that
the head of
scene
Johnson & Johnson?
Biosite or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Some company, and it's that they created the virus, so
yeah, because it's part of like a big scheme to basically
it's the lizards,
manufacture
a
pandemic.
Plan.
It's the what?
Isn't the Lizard's plan in the Amazing Spider-Man that he's going to turn everybody into a lizard and then they have the antidote? Or no, is that they create the antidote?
Because he just wants to
he
make
just
people
wants
lizards.
People. What's the movie? There's a movie that I'm thinking of where he's like, I'm going to do it and then I'll have...
sell the cure.
It's Lex Luthor. It's Luthor. It's like, I'm going to blow
it's
up
like
the
real estate
California
thing.
coast.
I'm gonna set off an ecological disaster so I can buy real estate.
It's rich people taking advantage.
Yeah. Not relevant at all.
No.
Sounds like a made-up villain
fictional.
to me, if you ask me.
This seems to be a recurring bit with us, but I appreciate it.
Seems to be a recurring theme of the Mission Impossible movies.
Of life.
If
we were
where you're like,
so
that's not
bold.
real. The military, the government / the CEO wouldn't do that, and you're just like,
I think we're discovering some themes.
Some themes.
But
it's like watching Day After Tomorrow, and you're just like, wow,
yeah.
that movie got way more accurate in hindsight.
Yeah. But this, yeah, like he's in it. He doesn't really get to do anything. He just kind of is around to be like, I'm rich.
He's just like a British guy in this.
Yeah.
It's kind of big. So is Anthony Hopkins, I guess, to a degree.
Yeah.
I would be down to see. I'll take another of him coming back because I feel like based on his comments, like he had to have been fired due to some kind of harassment lawsuit.
Hopkins?
Like not the actor, this character in this movie.
Oh yeah, because he disappears.
He just disappears. He gets replaced, I think, with Lawrence Fishburne in the next one.
Yeah, it's Fishburne. Well, because we have a very fun story to tell about someone who's in that movie.
We have some fun stories. I can't tell.
We have a personal connection to a cast member. Of
we're a couple Kevin
3.
Bacons away from everyone in that one.
We are. We'll get into it. Just to tease it out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like, fine in this. But
he talks like a villain in this movie.
It does seem like he would be.
Hopkins is like, because even at the end, they're like, you were supposed to save the virus. What did you do? I'm analyzing you. I know what you've done. Like, he just seems like I'm waiting for him to twirl a mustache.
Yeah.
Like, I almost like it's kind of surprising he doesn't come back and be like a third act reveal. Yeah. Kind of villain, you know?
Well, that's kind of what
But maybe they were like, we just did that in the first one.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie is interesting that it's just people discussing the intricacies of the virus.
Yeah.
And I don't think the virus is like a bad MacGuffin. Like, I don't think it's a bad idea.
It's not a bad MacGuffin. I think it's just
the most original, but
it's not the most original, but I also feel like it's just that like they're doing something with the virus, but like it's just interesting the direction they end up going with it, especially when there is like a 40-minute dead spot in the movie.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like
we tried it odd. And I think part of it's like that thing of it feels like they were writing the movie before they figured out what anything was, and then they were sort of locked into a bunch of weird mask reveals that they were already filmed.
It also feels like sometimes like the horse race scene. Like it feels like we are picking a setting in order to distract from the fact that like
it's like more about the
really
environments and the set pieces, and we're trying to make it more interesting so you don't realize that we forgot to write a movie,
which it's not working.
It is not working.
I can tell.
I have a note here I just saw in the first I think it's the only one after the car chase, after some lovemaking, presumably it looks like Tom Cruise is wearing lipstick.
In what scene?
There's a scene where they wake up in bed together, him and Thandie Newton.
In the beginning?
Like, before you find out, like, why she's been recruited and everything. I think he's wearing lipstick in that scene.
He might. And again, it's
weird.
really
funny.
It's weird to see Ethan Hunt, like, post-sex.
I know.
It's a very strange situation.
Post-coital being like... Because he has that, like, damn. And there's, like, the woman's still there, and it's just like that, like, oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make love to a woman.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm Ethan Hunt. I'm kind of a sexless being.
Yeah, he's like, that's not the mission. I was supposed to go rogue. Instead, I busted a...
It's, yeah. And again, there's so many scenes where it ends with, like, we do a scene and then someone, like, reveals themselves.
Yeah. And it's like, like, all the sequences end with, like, a big line.
Yeah.
Like, it's got that, like... Yeah, we're not done yet. We've just rode a snowball and rolled it into hell. Tossed it into hell.
Which is, a line that you think should sound
should
cool.
eat, but doesn't.
No.
It's not like Doom with a bazooka. It's just like...
No. Wow, you're making me miss Doom with a bazooka.
Yeah, that's our standard for good things.
For dumb but cool. Is Doctor Doom wielding a bazooka. But there is the scene where Tom Cruise, or what we soon find out to be Dougray Scott, where he's in the mask of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, because apparently his whole thing is he is like actual like anti-Ethan, because he literally on his missions, his job was to pretend to be Ethan.
Yeah, he's his body double.
He couldn't even have his own missions. He had to get Ethan's missions.
It's like if Tom Cruise's stand-in wanted to lead Mission Impossible, kind of a thing. It's kind of how it feels.
And that's like the other weird thing is like the only reason he's able to take the antidote and what he thought was the virus was because Ethan's supposed to be on that first mission in the plane.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be an Ethan mission with an Ethan identity.
But they couldn't get a hold of him.
Ethan decided he was on vacation. He decided he had to go climb rocks.
Yeah.
Instead of talking to his good Russian friend.
Sure.
He was like, Dmitri,
yeah, his
I need your help.
Friend.
Fun fact, that is the homeless man from Batman Begins.
The coat guy?
The coat. Nice coat.
Nice
I looked
coat.
it up. I forgot. I had his name. I had it looked up. I was going to try and bring it up earlier, but we moved on kind of weirdly. But Raid Cerebid. Do you want to take a crack at this? I cannot read this man's name. God bless him. He's an amazing character actor, but I
just gotta really like.
Is maybe the most Russian name I've ever seen.
I'm so sorry to this man because we are definitely gonna murder your name.
You can't butcher the word butcher.
I literally just
before we get into the harder part.
That's crazy. Raid Serbigia? Serbijaya?
Let's call him the Raid.
I'm into that. That's pretty sick.
That's pretty sick.
Dude, if someone was like, this is my friend, the Raid, I'd be like, well, I'm going to give you all my money, I guess.
On that note, the Raid is awesome.
The Raid is kind of...
Give me 7 more.
Kind of the vibe that I would want, like, what I feel like I would want a Mission Impossible movie to be is like Ethan Hunt, like, on his own and going, what happens when kind of a thing.
But yeah, anyway, that's the homeless man from Batman Begins. I just thought that was funny because I thought for a second when I saw him on IMDb, he looks like the guy from the Dos Equis commercials.
Yeah, I see that.
When he's like looking his best, he looks like the most interesting man in the world, and I desperately wanted it to be the most interesting man in the world, and instead it was homeless man from Batman Begins.
Hey, that guy,
which I was not ready for, but
probably is
I'm
the
here
most
for.
Interesting man in the world. But so then we do
most interesting man in the world.
We do another heist.
We do another heist. We get another wire.
Yes.
Shortstop.
I like the conceptual, like the
I think the visuals of this are really kind of cool.
I think the grades are cool.
That's another no music heist.
Yeah.
It's very slow and are we gonna do it in time?
It's a little diminishing return, but I like that they recognize that we can't do the bit. It can't be the wire again.
Yeah.
We have to move on from it. But
this time they're you can't have the wire on you the whole time. You have to bring it back.
When they say
the vents will close.
You have 40 seconds. There is a little bit of me that's like, oh, it's cool. We should do it where the heist has to take place within 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Not really the conceit of the scene.
No. It's you have to get in and release the wire in 40 seconds.
His hair looks great.
What do you think his original escape plan was? Because obviously it goes off the wire, but were they gonna lower the thing back in, or was he gonna sneak out?
Front door. Just walking in.
Because he did go.
Catch you guys later.
He was just bye.
Clocking off.
Later.
Yep. You just go at it.
He's Mondays, am I right? And then he leaves, and they're I don't even get dental.
Yeah, he's drinks later. Drinks later.
We're all going to Marty's after.
Just several people in lab coats confusing. And they're that's Tom Cruise.
They're Tom Cruise.
I like the bit where he has to like do the backflip because like the guy like that stuff is pretty fun.
Backflip's pretty cool. But again, I think it's kind of cool that he like lands on the wall. I think a lot of the ways he's like moving with the wire is pretty cool.
But again, at this point, we're like an hour and 10 minutes into the movie.
We're an hour and 10 minutes in, and now we're doing kind of a slow action sequence.
Yeah,
which is an interesting like structural choice. And it's like that thing of like it's like because you brought up the rule of like the like every 10 minutes something should go boom or something like that. But it's like that interesting, like when like movies are doing that, like Fantastic Four does this where they like their idea of like, well, we have to have something visually interesting happen. And like in that movie, it ends up being like motocross or snowboarding.
Yep.
And in this one, it's like we had a car chase, we had this. And then it's like in a way, it's like, does the horse track sequence count? I don't know.
I think they try to pretend that it counts.
Yeah, and it's like we're gonna shoot this as like viscerally as possible.
Yeah.
So that it can't, because there's a lot of tension in that. But it's another one of those like.
Yeah, again, not something John Woo is incapable of. He certainly has all the capacity to do it, but it feels that thing of like where it just kind of rings a little hollow. I think.
Yeah.
And then those little guns with the virus and stuff. Boy, are those Men in Black looking ass guns.
Oh, they are.
Literally, it took me 2 seconds.
That's some noisy cricket looking bullshit
that's
I've ever seen.
I literally have.
I think that was the vibe. That's what you wanted in a gun back then.
Which
70s was like Smith & Wesson, and then now it's like big Men in Black gun.
The Men in Black guns are the best ones.
Yeah.
Noisy cricket
Roaches
rules.
check in, but they don't check out.
They don't check out. Damn right. God damn it. I'm just excited about Men in Black.
You want to switch the episode? Let's just do Men in Black.
Talk about
now.
Men in Black?
All right, so this is now a Men in Black episode.
Yep.
Yeah, well, so yeah, we got the heist. Before that, we have the Dougray Scott is like doubling, and then he's figured out that his girl's only there to spy on him.
Yeah.
Which was brought up in a sequence.
Yeah, and he said, "I don't care.
I don't care. Maybe I'm okay with that. Maybe I'll get a couple rides in or something." He says something all equally awful.
Yeah, they
to
say
Anthony
another
Hopkins.
really gross, demeaning thing to think.
Not that we should rank which one's the worst, because I don't want to talk about it any more than we have to. But like, damn, dude, like, damn,
it's all terrible. Yeah, she did not have a good experience filming this movie. She came out, she's like, no, Tom is nice, he's just really intense. I just didn't have a good experience.
I mean, it just sounds like it's that thing of like a lot of the women end up being underwritten in these movies, and like even Rebecca Ferguson has sort of said like, I love these movies, I love working on them, but like I've done 2 now, and it's hard, especially when your part starts getting reduced, and it's like, yeah, that's.
Well, I also know that
and it's like she's like, I have a different TV. I can shoot a whole other TV show and Dune Part 1 and 2 in the time it takes to do one.
Yeah, because
mission.
It takes a long time to film these movies.
And it's like there's a lot of shooting and reshoots, and God forbid someone breaks their shin.
Yes. What does that happen?
No idea, but God forbid someone broke their shin.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. But yeah, it's
That's
like
why we have stunt doubles.
This sequence, again, I don't think it's bad, but I just think at this point it's so late in the movie that I'm like, well, we're getting into this now, you know what I mean? And then
it's like this probably should have happened around the horse track.
Yeah,
thing. And then I think that's just a miss on the writing standpoint, is that it's just we're taking too long to get to the fun stuff.
Well, and then we get to this point where Tandy Newton, who again has had nothing to do this entire time, that in order to like put her into the plot, they literally inject her with the virus.
Yeah, like the only way to keep her relevant is to put the bomb in her.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Now she's the bomb.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Do you think like a producer was like, she's the bomb, and then some guy was like, she has to be the bomb?
Yeah. Robert Towne was like, okay, I guess I'll make that work.
Yeah, Robert Towne, Chinatown.
Yeah, he's the guy who writes this one. He comes back from the first one.
Yeah, so he does the actual script, but the story's written by a couple of guys.
Still has a story credit.
Don't think Kep is actually that involved this go around. It was on this one. It's a couple guys who worked on the Star Trek movies. It is Ronald D. Moore and Brannon Braga.
Oh, okay.
They wrote for the like next gen era Star Trek movies, the Picard ones.
I will say another thing that I think this movie kind of wastes again is so the idea that Dougray Scott is the anti Ethan Hunt when they're like talking to each other in this sequence, they're like throwing insults at each other, and it's not bad. It kind of works, and I think if this movie was centered, was possibly centered more around the dynamic between these guys, this idea of him being like, I've pretended to be you, blah blah blah, I'm tired of this, kind of a thing. Like when they're like ribbing each other or whatever, I think they're pretty effective, And I feel like they don't, again, like we're an hour and 20 minutes into the movie. There's only like 35 minutes of the movie left. And they're like just now talking to each other.
Yeah, they're just meeting for the first time. Which I will say, when they like lock eyes like through the mirror.
Yes, it's good.
Really cool.
Really good.
Really cool standoff. It's just like, the thing about him being like the anti like Ethan is that that's literally the plot of GoldenEye. That
Fair.
Sean Bean is like the anti-James Bond. He's 006.
Which, funny enough,
who faked his death. Like,
Ray Scott is kind of giving me Sean Bean in National Treasure
he's
vibes
giving
in this movie.
big.
Second time I've brought up National Treasure on this
bloody
series.
map.
Like, he kind of has that thing. He has like the other team and all this other stuff. Sorry, continue.
He's got his point. He uses Yahoo. Ethan uses Google.
Damn.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they do a big heist.
They do a big heist.
And then they do a big shootout because the heist goes wrong.
Yes.
And
it's a good shootout.
The girl becomes the bomb.
Yes.
She injects herself with the virus.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which this is something I think is hilarious. Because they have that moment where they're like, when they figure out what Chimera actually is.
Yeah.
And that it's a virus that like melts your face off. And I think they're like, we have 20 hours before this kills you. In the photos, it's like by the 20th hour, your face is melting off and has been for several hours. And Thandie Newton must be built different because, you know, they get the antidote to her within like, I don't think like an hour or something. And it's just like
a little vague.
It is, yeah, it's vague, but it's like, I think at the point that the finale of the movie's taking place, she should be bleeding from her eyes.
Yeah, well, it's something. Well,
or am I wrong on that?
I think it was like 20. It's like within 17 hours or something is when you're dead. But it also, again, Thandie Newton, like they just don't like. At the end, they're just like, well, there's like a line where it's like Naya.
Yeah, they're like release her into downtown, and then she appears in the middle of the desert for some reason. So those henchmen should probably be fired.
She spends the rest of the movie like contemplating like. Yeah. Unaliving herself.
Yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say, and I was saying this before. There's like kind of the women in the movie are not like there's one.
There's one.
And she's not written particularly well.
Horribly, and they make.
But there is a glimpse of her having some agency over herself. Of like, oh yeah, y'all just gonna sit here and oogle at me? Well, fuck you. Bam. What you gonna do now? And I kind of like that she sort of drives the plot for that one. It just like, immediately though is like her staring at the water, like, and being
it's like the only time that they allow her to do anything is that they make it so that she's just sad and basically dying. Gonna kill herself. Like it, it's
But there's like I did like this like one moment of her being like, y'all are bullshit, like and like grabbing the thing and injecting it. I thought was kind of a badass moment on her part. Like that's pretty metal to be like, oh, this thing's like new Ebola.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro.
And then I guess we go into it's that thing, like we go from that right into the third act.
We do have a fun moment where they drug Mad Eye Moody and get him to confess to part of the plan.
Yeah, they do a little thing, which they
created the virus and the cure on purpose to make money.
That's a fun,
that's a fun one. I think they do it better in Fallout. Yeah, I was just but like we get like a prototype version of it where he's like, "Oh, what's going on? I thought you were dead." And it's the music.
There's no Wolf Blitzer pretending to be Sean Bean.
We don't get Wolf Blitzer, but we do get homeless Batman Begins man.
That's true. Hey, it is a nice coat.
It is a nice coat.
If there's one thing I know, it's a nice coat.
Dimitri.
It's nice we bring the rock climbing back.
Yes,
that's a fun.
The rock climbing comes, yeah. In Fallout, or you mean
in this? And when they go into the third act,
yeah, he's like scaling. I guess
and
that's
then
true.
He
did
does
set that up.
The front flip kick, which feels deeply ineffective.
Yeah, well, it's like that like Last Action Hero. I'm gonna throw my body at you.
Yeah. Tom Cruise, I love that when he kicks.
Or it's like a Vin Diesel flying headbutt kind of action. It's like that's the least effective way to hurl a body. But I will say the flips are fucking cool.
They're cool. I just love that he swings the entire force of his own self.
Yeah, I like it's a lot of like 360 like circle kick.
Yeah. It's whenever when he first does
like it's not a front, like there's some front flips and then there's like I'm gonna flip to the right now.
When he does that front flip kick and he has to like land on his back and then stand back up, I'm like, I feel like there's an easier way for you to do that, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's also funny too because like when they're doing the other heist just before this, Ambrose makes like a big point of like Ethan doesn't like to like he'll do whatever it takes to not kill a guard, you know, so he'll probably come sneaking in through the top. And then this mission, he's just like breaking necks and kicking people off cliffs. Like
it's crazy.
The gloves are off.
I like the reverse. This is the bit that I was referring to earlier, where it was like, there's so much masking in this movie that when we get Ethan fighting, I can't remember his name, but the like henchman.
Oh yeah, Richard Roxburgh is in this movie. For those who don't know, wonderful Australian actor who's like the bad guy in a lot of early 2000s movies.
Yeah, so he's
Van Helsing Dracula.
Oh my god, yeah, that's right.
He's the main villain of Moulin Rouge.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right. That's hilarious. But like that stuff, I think is pretty good.
I want it my way. No, he's a great actor. He's also in Lion with Dev Patel. He's the dad, the adopted dad. Yeah, he's great. He's a great actor. But yeah, it's funny. He's doing South African in this one.
Yeah. But like that whole sequence where they're fighting is good. Yeah. I like the reverse, but because we have done so much of like the mask reveal that when we reveal that it's not Ethan, that it's Richard Roxburgh and he's duct taped, it does feel a little like, well, you guys have been doing this the entire time. Like it feels lessened. Well, but it's a good moment.
It's a great moment, but if like it's like the kind of thing where it's like you need fewer mask moments earlier.
Yes.
Like if it's like you kind of need like probably the one in the plane.
Yeah.
But then like does Ethan do another mask up? Well, I guess he does the like I'm the homeless man from Batman Begins.
He does that, and
I'm
then
the scientist.
There's also the one where Sean Ambrose does it to
trick
to be Ethan.
Danny Newton. Yeah,
and there's another one in there too. They do it a couple.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 more. Like there's like 4. Like at this point, this is like the 6th or 7th mask moment.
Yeah.
This is the best one in my opinion, but it is like completely undercut by the other ones.
I also like that if given the opportunity, Dougray Scott's character will just waste Ethan.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
Like that he puts him down. He's like, oh yeah, I broke his jaw. Probably was not talking. He's like, great. Boom, 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 boom. He gives 5 big booms.
Okay, that reveal though, that like it's like, wait a second. He sees the finger.
Opera plays.
The opera, the like, and it's just like he pulls it back, and then like he looks and the table snap zooms, no virus, no drug, and then it's just like dun 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 dun, and then he pulls the mask off. It's like that's when Mission Impossible's doing Mission Impossible, and what the movie forgets to do for an hour and 40 minutes.
It honestly, yeah, and like I have a note immediately after that moment that just says, "I wish this was the whole movie."
Yeah,
like I wish that this is what we were getting the entire
which
time.
I think that's part of the lesson of this movie that they figure out is like, wait, this is the fun thing. This is the part people like respond to.
Yeah, or at least if you're gonna do it, like don't save it for the last.
This
35
third
minutes.
act is like wild because it really does feel like it's in conflict with the other 2 acts of the movie.
Yeah, but so when we get into the like.
The third act.
There's the car chase and all that stuff. Like, the car chase it's not too, like, incredible for me. I think it's okay.
I think it's just that thing of, like, other movies have done this one better.
Yeah.
And so this is just sort of, like, a regurgitation, like, acid reflux version of, like, all of them come. Because, like, they make fun of it in, like, Last Action Hero. So it's, like, I just feel like John Woo did it better in Face Off, and he's essentially being tasked with coming up with another version of it.
Sure.
And I feel like structurally it's like the same thing of like it's this balls to wall chase. We go from foot to motorcycle to I mean they don't go on a boat in this one, but in Face Off they do. But it's like we're gonna keep changing vehicles now, like kind of thing.
Well, look, I can't lie. Like when they get to the beach, 2 guys
They're
fighting
jousting
in slow motion
with motorcycles.
Jousting. It is a little cool, man. I can't get rid of that.
See, this is why I was locked in at the ripe age of 6.
Valid.
I was just like,
totally valid.
Do another flip.
Well, like the knife shot is incredible.
The knife shot is incredible.
Why the rig had to be that expansive, you can make an argument against that, but that knife shot is really,
it really is. Well, apparently
impressive.
John Woo was just like, and then the knife gets like close, and Tom Cruise was like, it must be within 2 centimeters of my eye.
I want it like right
Get
there.
a steel cable and some measuring tape. We're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, it's
because if this doesn't kill me,
that stuff works. But also, again, like the whole thing with Mission Impossible is like the team, right, to some degree. And I feel like
it is, and the team is like literally like Luther is like
they're not doing anything.
Hey, we blew up the van earlier, so the whole thing that you can't do, and that's like, which is like kind of interesting. Ethan's is kind of on his own going into the third act, but Ethan's also been doing everything by himself the entire movie.
Yeah, they haven't done anything.
Yeah, there's no team dynamic really in this one.
It feels like there's a team because it's Mission Impossible. There should be a team, and there's no purpose for them.
Yeah, but this is like in this version, this is more like the Clerks equivalent of like, hey, I'm stuck at work all day. Do you guys want to come and hang out? like at the convenience store with me.
Yeah, might as well
like, and Luther's like, so Star Wars, when you get to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like the crew on the Death Star.
There's a guy with pink shorts. Shout out Clerks and Kevin Smith.
But yeah, they fight each other.
They punch each other bunch.
Each other up.
There's some cool stuff.
Tom Cruise shoots him. The helicopter shows up.
The helicopter shows up, and then you get probably the coolest. It's not a skateboard. It's my gun. Bam.
Yes, that kick is again absurd, but
absurd.
I like it.
It's like
it's fun.
It's like I see a gun. Like that. It's so melodramatic.
Yeah.
Which again, it's like that thing of like, I'm so into it. Like we've talked about Batman Forever. I'm good for a good melodrama.
I will defend that movie any chance I get.
Titanic is very, very melodramatic in the best possible way.
Sure.
This movie doesn't thread the needle in a lot of parts, and like specifically in the action, it gets ridiculous. That the gun moment is like both really cool and also like, come on, like
it's
kind of moment.
Yeah, I get that. And then everything kind of gets wrapped up in a nice bow. It's weird.
He goes on vacation again.
There's that weird line with Hopkins, or it's not. It's weird for what I'm about to say. Like when he says, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" I think I'm gonna go on vacation, and he's like, what is the bit again? It's like if it's not a vacation,
like,
if you
I'll
tell
you
where
I'm
you
going,
are.
and then he like says it back to him.
So
like
yes,
kind of thing.
Because Cruise,
does he like him, or I feel like they're taunting each other the whole time.
Yeah, that they kind of secretly hate each other. But like, so Cruise says that in the beginning, and then Hopkins says it like 3 minutes after the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he says it again here at the end. And I feel like it's weird that we have that second one.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a better payoff if we remove the one that he says almost immediately after the movie starts.
I would agree. I feel like, weirdly, especially in this last scene, I feel like Hopkins is in a hurry to leave.
Yeah. He does feel like he's like kind of slowly walking.
He's like, I've cashed the check outside.
Yeah. That he's like ready to
Clarice, darling, cash me outside, please.
Oh, God. But yeah, and then
I don't know if to take that bit, so we'll just let it
No, it's
there.
a good bit. I like that.
Leave it in the sand with Ambrose's body.
And then, yeah, we get Tom and Tandy Newton coming
off
together.
into the sunset.
Let's get lost is his line. Good line.
Good line.
The scene is weird.
Scene's weird, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it.
I feel like there's a similar setup at the end of Face Off. I can't quite remember, but there's a carnival and everyone's having like a sort of innocent, fun barbecue kind of time.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like beat for beat that. And it's just like, okay.
I also feel like
it just like feels like it's so like a regurgitation of all the other action movies that are happening right now. And I feel like the first one feels so like fresh and like original, even though it is like an adaptation of a show and they're just doing those tropes like bigger and better, but like it just feels so fresh the way they do it. And then this one, it does just feel like action sloppy seconds. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's like fair or if anyone else agrees with me, but it's just like, I feel like we've seen other movies do these exact things better.
No, it does kind of feel like a faint echo at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of ended on a happy note. What happens to Tandy Newton in the third one?
Yeah.
She just disappears.
Just disappears.
And again, she has every right to not come back. I probably wouldn't.
Would you want to see her come back?
If they do
in
something
a good role,
with her,
if they do something with her,
I would love to see her come back if they do something with her. Yeah, because she's great, and like she's in. This is not a movie that it would be like the highest on her like credits to look after, but she's in Solo, for 2 seconds, and she's really kick ass in Solo.
She's good. She's really good whenever she shows up in things.
She's fantastic.
It's a shame.
It's a real bummer that this movie just completely tosses her.
They're like, you're the deadliest and greatest thief in the world.
We will do nothing.
That's not why you're here.
Yeah, it's like again, it's like, I think we said this with maybe the Fantastic Four ones. It's like transparent. Like it's like
it's like literally like they say it out
guys.
loud and it's like aggressive and nasty.
Yeah,
like it's like, ugh.
Why are you doing this? But I think the movie, I don't think
I think Tom Cruise should have slept with Ambrose. I think we should have explored that in a Challengers style. Dynamic.
Listen,
see, that would have been
was one of my favorite movies of last year. You say Challengers, I'm into it.
The final fight should have just been a tennis match.
That would have been better. I actually totally 100% on board for Tom Cruise in a tennis match. Could you imagine
Scott?
How serious that is?
He's like, serve like me, and then he's like,
oh my god!
And then the opera comes in. Da, da, da.
I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a joke, but we could probably cut this part out. Tom Cruise is as tall as the tennis racket.
Not even the net, the racket. Damn.
Yeah.
No, as we're talking about this though, I'm thinking I want to see Luca do a Mission Impossible movie now.
Oh yeah, he'd be great.
That'd be fun, right?
I would love to see it. Well, I mean, the rumor is he's doing Sergeant Rock for DC.
Yeah.
So he'll do some kind of action movie. It'd be interesting to see. Where do you stand if you were in the year 2000 and you're wondering if we need one more?
It's that weird thing of like, this movie's not bad enough for me to be like, kill the franchise.
Sure.
I think the action's still really cool and I enjoy a good heist. And it's like that first one's really good. So I feel like if I'm a fan of this series, I'm thinking if you can kind of walk it back to one a little more, I'm definitely down for one. But there's a part of me that's like, if it got canceled and they never did it again, I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's either it would be like, oh yeah, like Mission Impossible is great. They did that second one. You don't really have to watch.
Yeah, but it is that crazy thing of like, not only are we gonna do another one, we're gonna do like 8 more, and we're gonna get better at this.
Yeah.
Like this really is the low point, and it's all uphill from here.
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of nutty.
It's a quick dip, and then we go right back.
Yeah, and it's like the cool thing, like for them, and not you can plan for this, but because this is like the low point, they have a clear benchmark for like what is like failure.
Yeah. Well, also I think
at least in the eyes of the fans, but
I think we said this in the last episode that it was like, you know, John Woo doing this movie, and John Woo is a legend.
He's a legend.
His
He's
his filmography,
really good.
it's not like tainted by.
No, I don't think the things that go wrong are necessarily his fault. I think there's a little the dialogue of what they're trying to do. I think that people are just on different pages kind of thing.
But I do think it's that thing of, had this movie not happened the way that it happened, we probably would not be where we are with Mission Impossible.
True.
We probably wouldn't be covering it on this podcast. You know what I mean? Like, in the sense that, like, there wouldn't have been the need, and this is kind of where I feel like if I'm in the audience, I'm going, you know, I like Tom Cruise. I'm not against seeing another one, but it can't be like this. And I think they made the smart step in listening to that instinct and going, okay, well, we need to redirect this.
Yeah,
and,
we need to reestablish what is Mission Impossible, because we've strayed too far from the path.
And they take a while. It's like 6 years or something like
I think
that,
so, yeah. I think the next one's, I think it's going to be 10 years later that the next one comes out
like,
finally. Or no, 6 years, because it'd be 10 years after the first one, I think. I think it's 2006 when MI3 comes out.
Because, and then they even find a brand new up-and-coming TV director named J.J. Abrams.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll do anything.
Nope.
Somehow Ethan
Doubt
Hunt
it.
returned.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'll save that for next week.
Yeah, we'll save that. But yeah, like I feel like it is that thing of like, I don't know if I need one more, but if you're gonna do it,
I'm still down. Like, I feel like there's enough good action in this and enough cool shit to make me go like, yeah, I'll take one more. And also like the first one is like really, really good.
Yeah.
So like this being just like,
you're right,
bad to okay, it's like, it's
if
just
we
like,
can go back.
It's like I could see them doing it like yeah, I'll do another one, like let's see what you do. And it's like, yeah, if you do another one of these, like I'll probably tap out after 3.
Sure.
But I'm still like, you know, it's like, it's the Taco Bell thing. Like I ate it and I had a bad stomach experience, and then I'm like, well, I'll do it again. But third time,
yeah. Taco Bell is never, our relationship is.
Of course, it's never been just 3 times. It's been every time.
Yeah. One time, shame on, what is it? First time, shame on me. Second time, shame on you. Third time,
now watch this drive.
Fourth time, yeah. Now watch this drive. Incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you're a yes.
I'm a yes. I'm a
on the titular question.
Yeah. I would say I'm a yes. It's just
going from 2 to 3. This is not the broad question for those who want. We haven't jumped the gun yet. We still got how many more movies? 6.
We have 6 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That is crazy.
That's wild. I never thought I was gonna have 6, because I told you, like, for a long time I only had 3. This was my favorite one for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I grew up.
We get a couple of them.
A little bit ashamed.
We get like a couple of them like spaced out, and then we get a lot of them relatively back.
Yeah.
to back.
I mean, as they start to figure out the formula, they start to pump
in.
them out a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm like, at this point I'm still like down.
I think with a slight course correction. Yeah,
just a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah,
I'm like, that wasn't it, but you know, we'll do it. But yeah, it's like weird that this movie is like they forgot that Ethan's not James Bond. that he's Ethan.
That's one of the
and I think that is like the problem with the movie is that they're like the guys who wrote, like, I don't know like where it went wrong or who was pushing for what. I feel like Cruise was trying to push for him to become more of a James Bond.
Maybe.
But I don't think it worked at all.
And I also think, you know, I mean, regardless of, I guess, whatever it was, you know, they listened and like they course corrected and like it clearly worked out. And I think Cruise knows exactly who this character is now. And
he's got it down. And it is so like in his bones at this point.
Yeah,
it's like
100%.
Yeah, no, he knows. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, Ethan Hunt is like, you could make an argument for what is his defining role, but I feel like it's pretty clearly it's Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, I think that probably is. It could be that or Maverick, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think you could make the argument of like, what's the better performance? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like whether it's Eyes Wide Shut or Interview with the Vampire or, you know, Les Grossman or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But like he's delivered several fantastic performances. He's great in Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. Have you seen The Firm?
No.
It's interesting because it's basically a guy trying to escape a cult, but it's Tom Cruise.
Interesting.
Yeah. Great movie though.
I think
it's Sidney Poitier.
I mean, Tom Cruise is like one of
really freaking cool movie. I really liked it. He is.
But yeah,
the title he has earned. There's no getting around that.
He has, by the strength of his will, has continued to hold that title. Not to say that it's slipping, but like he has proven time and time again that like that, and that's a narrative that we'll get into with 4. Yeah. Of him re-establishing himself as the guy.
We'll get into 4 because like the course correcting in that movie is wild on every level.
Yeah.
That happens, but yeah. Any other thoughts? Mission Impossible 2?
The long hair is good.
Long hair is good.
It's a little silly in the context, but
completely ineffective.
Oh yeah, especially for like a spy who's whipping his body all around like Tom Cruise is in this one. But boy, does it look good when he's falling down that shaft. Like
he's just standing there staring. Yeah, mewing.
Hair is good. You know, Australia,
mate.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Australia. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to We Need One More.
Be sure to follow us on socials like TikTok and Instagram at WNOM Podcast to stay up to date on upcoming episodes.
And feel free to join our Discord community where you can share your thoughts on the movies we're watching together. That's going to be at WNOM Podcast server with the link in the bio.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That's the best way to support the show and to let us know that you need one more.
We'll see you next week. This podcast is produced by Pilot 9 and 9 Ball Creative.